Okay, so next video I'm going to show you how to put together the little owl hanging decoration like this one. So make the dome in the same way as I described on the polar bear video. The polar bear video also has a brief introduction to the needles we're using and also a little on safety of using them. When you've made your little domed owl, this one's been stabbed in a little bit more than this one, as you can see. You've got your bases of your shape. To make the wings, take roughly 3 centimetres. Remember, hands quite wide apart, makes the fibres be able to slide across each other. And if it's way too much, then just pick a little bit off. Split in half lengthways. Again, check they're roughly the same size. That's good. And we're going to be making these little wings. So take the first one, and they're ever so easy. It's a simple roll up, pop it in position on the side of your dome and stab in the fluffy end. And you want to be driving the fluffy ends up and under the bottom of that wing so that it gets a kind of rounded lump forming at the end. And then it's exactly the same on the top side for the shoulder. So driving those fluffy ends up and under. And then just work around the edge, getting it all fixed in really nicely. If you want those wings to be flat, a lot flatter against the body, then drive them a little bit deeper, pushing deeper like so. If you want to keep them nice and stuck out, don't push through too deep, just firm it up a wee bit by poking around the surface. You can see we're already getting that shape. So once again, take your fluff, roll it, make sure you've got fluffy on each end, pop it in position. It's worth having a little look at it from above as well, because we want to be able to go straight across so that the wings are on either side of the body and not suddenly round his back. So tack this one in position first, top and bottom, or the other way around. This is the top, that was the bottom. Tack them in position. Double check that you're happy with the positioning of it, that it's sitting, you know, quite nicely, that you've got the front of the bird or the back of the bird, depending which way, and that you've not got a wing sitting too far round either side. Then firm that in. So felting around the edges to get it nice and fixed on. Really tidy up those initial joins on the shoulder and the bottom of the wing. Okay, and you've got your very basic owl shape coming on there. The tail is another roughly 3cm piece, it can be a little bit more. Roll, fold in half, and then felt it together, so you keep a fluffy end and then a neatly folded end. You'll find with your polystyrene, it really isn't the nicest thing to felt down onto. It can help putting just a little bit of cotton cloth over the top, or even a piece of acrylic felt over the top. But for the purposes of these quick have-a-go tests, I prefer to use a bit of recycled material. If you get into felting, you can either make yourself a rice bag or buy a rice bag, buy a felt mat. There's all sorts of bits of equipment that are usually not too expensive to buy to get you into it. At Hedgehog and Hoop, we do supply pretty much all your needs for felting if you're having trouble locating anything. Okay, so there's a little tail. Now, I'll be opening out in that umbrella join that I talk about in the polar bear video, breaking where there might be any loops that have formed, and then I'll have a little look and decide which looks best as the front or the back, and then pop the tail so that part of that umbrella goes underneath and the other forms all around on his back. Tack it in position. Check you're happy with the position. Looks okay. And then firm it on. And you can control then whether you want that tail to point downwards. If you do, just push it down and poke straight down. Right, next we're going to look at making the mask of white and this section of white. So these are both done by shaping and folding. So take a pinch, start with the dome first, it's the easier one. Just simply fold under and shape yourself a little arch. Pop that arch where you want the tummy to come to. Poke not too deep, tack it in place. Check you're happy with the position. And then take your time to get a nice neat edge by gently poking. Remember, whatever direction you poke, that's the way that you push the fibres. So if you want that little tummy to push in and have a really tidy edge, push from the outside in and then tidy it all up. And you can see I'm not driving the needle all the way through, I'm just working the surface. Go. And see how much that piece of white shrank down, because there wasn't a lot of fibre there. It was quite opened out, but it's more than enough to give that nice, neat little tummy. So another small bit, fold under, kind of make a lozenge shape. And then it's going to end up slightly squeezed in like a rough figure of 8. So pop that into the centre, poke the centre where the figure of 8 bit's going to go, and attach that in first. And then you can get these fibres out to make that nice goggle kind of effect. Okay, so very quickly, there he is. Then we're going to very small pinches. Everything you do when you're adding the details is small, small pinches. For the eye, a real amber bit of the eye, we need to try and make sure we've got the same amount. Then I roughly shape a circle, and I'll stick it on my foam so that I try and get the 2 eyes to roughly the same shape before I start, so that I know that they're going to be pretty much the same size once I've attached. So we know it's going to shrink down, so we don't have to worry that it's gone over the mask size a little bit. And just work round and round. These are quite big eyes, but they do shrink in. It's definitely quite a little dinky one. So the more you stab your dome, obviously the smaller it gets. But also, depending how accurately you measure that 30 centimetres and the thickness of your sliver in the first place. Okay, so now we've got 2 beady eyes coming on there. We're going to take another very small pinch, roll it, manipulate it in your hands, roll, 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 and then fold in half. Position where you want the beak. Fluffy end in between the eyes. Give that a good old stab there to really drive it in. And then you can either do it so the beak sticks out like that, or I prefer for the owl to have it fixed in. So then I stab it in, make it a little bit more pointy by going at it from either side. Tiny, tiny stabs. Okay. The pupils, same again. Want to make sure that we've got pretty much the same amount of fluff in each side. Go too small amount of fluff rather than too much. It's much easier to add in than it is to take off big bits, other than removing the whole thing. So a small amount, roughly made into a circle, and then stab round and round and round and round till you get where you want that eye. So roughly into the circle. Okay, so you've got those. An even smaller amount of white, and then this time, like when I showed you on the polar bear, for making very small spots, sort of twist a little bit so that you almost have a yarn rather than fluff, to twist and poke and keep drawing that in gently, gently, gently. And if you keep drawing that little bit in, you can twizzle around, just don't put any pressure on that needle. Very, very gently. And you can get a really little eye spot in there. I've lost my other little bit, there it is. Get it in there, twist it so it becomes more like a little bit of yarn. It just helps you to get a really fine dot. Okay, so we got eye dots on there. For putting the stripes, if you want to put stripes on his arm, it's exactly the same method, but finer, as we did for adding the mouse tail on the polar bear and mouse video. So a little line, and twist it, draw, get to the other side. It probably will all poke in because we've left a bit of a gap under there. If it won't all poke in like that, then fingernail, pull and break it. So add your details I'm just going to do one side. Add as many little lines or decorations as you'd like to the wings. I usually put 3 lines on the owl's wing. Really take your time to get in all those edges so they're a lot neater than my rather rushed demo here. Take your time. You can see I'm really only poking with the top few millimeters of my needle once I'm onto details, and I only go in maybe 1 centimetre 2 at the most when I'm firming things up into the body. Okay, so we've got 3 lines there. You can add lines on to the tail in the same way there. Just going to show you how to do, well, I think you've worked it out. The spots on the tummy can be exactly the same way as you did the eyes. You can roll to get bigger spots, or you can draw it in and keep poking to get finer spots. You could change the colour slightly. You've got black, take a little bit of black, take a little bit of ginger, mix them together. So you can get slight changes in colour, like on this one. Got different colours within there. It's really whatever takes your fancy. In your packs, you've got crown. You can use that on whichever beastie you want. And all I did was just used super glue gel, or this 3-in-1 Beacon 3-in-1 craft glue is brilliant. It works as a kind of it's a bit like the same consistency as glue gun glue, but of course it's cold, which is rather nice. But you can see it's quite a gloopy glue, which gives you plenty of time to be able to work it. Okay, yes, fingers now. Right, yeah, so tidy up by lots of stabbing, get it exactly how you like it. Let that crown dry completely before you stitch in the yarn at the back to hang with. Remember that you don't need to, if you've not got a needle, you can just tie a knot, pop it in place, put some of your background colour over the top and fix it all in with that. But basically that's how you make your owl. Remember, keep referring to the polar bear / mouse demo, because that talks a lot more about making the shape and making all the smaller shapes and how to use your needle safely. Okay, great. Have fun.